Okay guys, I'm going to show you today something called the Fisherman's knot. Okay, so it's used for a couple of purposes. This is a safety cord for a cylinder tank, which I'm going to show you. And then this is again a cord that I'm going to use on my primary cave reel, which just helps me with the orientation of the bolt snap. Okay, so one of the things with the Fisherman's knot, it's a very simple knot, but it's done twice in opposite directions, and this is what's confusing a little bit for people. What I tend to use is just a fairly easily accessible piece of rope. I get it from a hardware store. It's about €5 for a reel. I take the multicolour simply because it stands out and I don't get my stuff confused with other people. To make the cord for a safety tank, you can actually get away usually with 30 centimeters, okay, but just for the purposes of the demo, I'm going to start with a 35 centimeter piece. So once I cut it, what I always like to do is just cinch the ends before I start to do too much work and I start to fray a little bit too much of the line. What we're actually going to do is we're going to tie the equivalent of a standard, what we call in the UK, granny knot. Don't ask me where the name comes from. Okay, but what we're going to do, we're going to tie it around the first piece, and there is the granny knot, and there is the first piece sliding inside. Okay, we're then going to make the second piece, and this one's going to go around in the opposite direction, which is what can throw you sometimes. Once that's tied, you can see that as I pull these two pieces together, you can see here that these two pieces here are actually parallel, and that's the clue that tells you that the knot is actually the right way round. Now with the safety cord, what you always want to do is go around a large part first, and what you're looking to do is have just enough slack so it clears, so you can see that there's a little bit too much here. So what I like to do is just like to say, pull the two loose ends. I'm going to pick one end to lock it off and make that my fixed side. I've already burned it, so I like to make that nice and tight. This side now I can actually use to shorten the size of the knot. And you can see now that I'm pulling some excess off. And then we can essentially try again. Still a fraction too big, and of course the knot will tighten up the more that you use it, so I like to make it nice and tight to begin with. Okay, and that's more like it, so it just pushes over. Okay, then what I'm going to do now is I will trim this side off, and then once that's trimmed, I'm going to just expose the loose end. I'm going to burn it, and then I'm going to push it into the knot itself, and that's going to stop it undoing. You see, you can also put, sometimes I see people putting a little dab of glue on there. That's also okay, but for me less is slightly more. Once this is done, I keep a couple of these in my bag and slip them over, and there we have it. Okay, so one of the other uses now for the Fisherman's knot is actually when you're putting a canister lamp, and for you guys that like running them over the shoulder, me, I'm a big fan of it. You have a couple of options. With some brands, which you guys know I like, you can take a piece of Velcro and you can lay obviously the cord over there and just put the Velcro back. But of course, don't always have the Velcro, you might not always want to buy it. On my personal unit, I'm using inner tubes as well, which I find gives me a really nice grip. And with some brands of lamp, the actual cord is removable, which means that you can actually push it underneath and route that all the way around. But if you don't have one of those, what you can do, you can make them quite quickly with a piece of bungee. This is just quite a thin, this is a 3mm or a 2mm piece of bungee. And the same story, going to use the Fisherman's node. I'm going to take about 30 centimeters, okay? And what I'm going to do now, just cut me a piece. Same idea, I'm going to just cinch the ends so that we don't lose ourselves with those. Take the lamp. I know where I want to put this piece. It's going to come over here. So once this is over, we don't need to worry about being too tidy, at least for now. We're going to tidy the ends up. I'm going to make the first node on the one side. And what I'm looking to do now is take some of the tension up, so I know that's nice and grippy. And then what I can do is I can just tie the other part of the knot. And there's my fisherman's knot here. There's the two parallel lines. What I would do is I'll put the knot around the back side, and of course I'm going to tidy these two pieces up. So you can pull them apart. Because it's bungee, we get lots of stretch, which is kind of cool. Pull those down, and you need to do trim this. Now if I leave a little bit of slack, it's going to make it easier for when I want to keep on reusing this for the next days. Because if you need to take the cord off to charge it, you want to be able to remake the knot each day, depending on the make that you have. So I'll make 2 or 3 of these, and then when I'm diving, I'll put the cord on the inside, and with enough of these, that's how I'm constraining the unit. And the last little use that I've actually got, you can actually see that I'm making a fisherman's node through a loop retainer on the actual head of my lamp, and that's obviously what the double ender is coming from. So when you get better at tying the node or the knot, you're going to be able to start putting these in more places on the unit. Another thing that you'll see quite a lot of times is that on some of the harnesses where they don't have an attachment point on the spine, you can create an option to secure, let's say, a canister lamp on the spine, and you'll do the same thing. You'll just take one of these bungees that we made earlier, and you'll just run 1, 2, and if you keep them on either side of the Jubilee band, then you're going to keep it in check, and then you are more able to run the route.